Hello, everyone. My name is Lisiate Tonga, and welcome to another episode of Tips from My Garage. I am a recovering addict. I'm the father of two beautiful boys, husband to a beautiful wife, and I'm the owner of online consulting business Upgrade Version U.0 and author of ebook Q&A Between Two Addicts. And today I'm going to talk about being a loner. So I used to have I used to think that being a loner means that you were sort of a loser, that you weren't cool enough. So that means that you didn't have any friends. And because you didn't have a friend or any friends, that you were sort of an outsider or you're a loser and nobody liked you. And I think that that's kind of how I grew up as a kid. The term loner carried a stigma, and you didn't want to be labeled as a loner. And furthermore, you didn't really want to be by yourself, anyways. And human beings in general don't want to be by themselves. We're social creatures, and so being a loner is not something that you want to be tagged. My idea or my belief of being a loner took a turn when I was 17 turning 18. And I put it down to one one incident or moment in my life that I recall when I was living in California, and I was on a hike with some friends in the hills. And I just remember looking up to the sky once and I could see an eagle, and I was amazed and in awe of the sight of the eagle, mainly because I love those majestic birds. I love any kind of predatorial birds. They fascinate me. I love the way they look. But I I remember just seeing it in the air, high up in the air, and it was still and it didn't really move. And in contrast to that, I was surrounded by trees which had leaves that were blowing in the wind. And in that moment, I thought to myself, wow, this could be a metaphor for life. And as I was looking at the trees blowing in the wind, I looked at those leaves and likened them to people, and people who kind of blow in the wind as well, that kind of are on the bandwagon. Whatever the newest craze could be, whatever's trending, and they kind of just blow with the wind wherever it goes. If it blows this way, it goes this way. If it blows that way, it goes that way. But as I gazed at the eagle that was flying above us and how still it was, it just made me think about what I want, what I want to be. Do I want to be a leaf blowing in the wind, or do I want to be an eagle soaring in the sky, that no matter where the wind is blowing, I can be still and I can stay poised in the middle of chaos, and that I don't have to be pushed around by the latest crazes or what society says that I have to believe, or what the most popular thing is to do. Can I stand firm in my beliefs? And even if it means that I'm going to be alone, or if I'm going to be by myself, do I have the strength to be able to stand on my own and not be moved and stay poised, even if the whole world is pushing me or pulling me to go in another direction? So from that point on, I looked at being a loner as probably something more that I want to be. And I also think about, lone wolves or lone predators that, do things by themselves, and they don't need anything else around them to bear them up because they're self-sufficient, they're independent, they survive on their own. Yeah, I know that was a little bit deep, but as a teenager, I kind of went in that direction. And actually, at the time, I was living in California, and I did kind of have my own alone experience while I was living in California. I moved to California because I was court ordered to leave the state of Utah where I lived and to be under the supervision of my godfather, Rod Dendok. Rest in peace. I love that man. And I appreciate everything that he's done for me. But he was my godfather, and he took me in to his home, and I lived with him, and I had to start kind of all over again. And I went to high school in California, and I was by myself, so I did feel alone. But also, there's this thing that comes with being alone and being able to start again that really motivated me to become something, or maybe to reinvent myself. And I had this curiosity about that. I was put in a situation where I had to start all over again, and I thought, okay, how do I make the most of this circumstance? And I guess that's a good segue for me to get into really what I wanted to talk about, with regards to being a loner, and also how that plays into those of you who are desperate to go on a recovery journey, but are hung up on your networks and your environment. And I've spoken a lot about this before, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into this, and I am going to reference my one of my blogs, which is called I'm a Loner. And you know going off of, or going on from, my previous episodes, and I guess you could say that this episode is subsequent to the ones that I have done recently, so you can take that in that order. And I'm going to reference the ones previous where I talked about being able to remove yourself, or to remove the people in your life that don't belong in your life, and then also to remove the places that you're frequenting that aren't that are supporting your bad behaviors. And so what happens is what people do when they want to go on this journey is they go, okay, I know I shouldn't be going here, and I know I shouldn't be hanging out with these people. But then what happens is they come to this crossroads where they have, or this situation or circumstance where they have to make a decision. And so they have only removed things from their lives and haven't yet replaced them with anything. And so if there has not been a plan of any sort to replace what they're removing from their lives, then what ends up happening is they find themselves by themselves. And this is only because they hadn't planned out or thought about what needs to happen, or what needs to take place once they have removed things from their lives that don't belong there. But if they don't have those things in their lives anymore, then their options are limited. And because their options are limited, they will often find themselves by themselves a lot. And then what happens is, they start to get FOMO. They start to have a fear of missing out, and then they start to think about their friends, or they think about their peers, and then they think about the places that they frequent, and then they start to become anxious, because in order for them to be able to move on with their lives, they have to leave all of these things behind. And so I guess the first thing that I wanted to point out about being alone is that it, there it is all about perspective. The truth of the matter is that you are going to be alone, and that is just a fact of your recovery. There's going to be times, and there's going to be moments in your life where you will be by yourself. It may be for a short time, it may be for a long time, it may be for a long while, and chances are it's going to be for a long while, and that's just the reality of it. But what I mean by perspective is the way you can look at that is sort of the way that I was looking at when I lived in California. It was just an opportunity for me to reinvent myself. It was like, okay, I'm brand new in this school. Nobody knows me. I can either be this loner and just, not integrate, or, just kind of go to school to learn and do what I need to do and try to graduate high school, or I can look at this as an opportunity to reinvent myself, to become someone new, to maybe even change some things about myself that I don't like, and then maybe project myself in a certain way that I believe that is truly more authentically me. And that's what I felt like I did when I had that experience in California. But when you're going on a recovery journey, that is also the perspective that you should have when you deciding to step away from everything that you do know. The perspective should be that, okay, I have a clean slate now, and the question should be, how do I want to paint this new picture? I've got a fresh canvas. I've got some new paint. I can create myself in a way that is going to be the best or a better version of myself. So how do I want to do that? And having that kind of perspective will help you. It will change your attitude about the situation or the circumstance that you're in, even though it's a serious thing that you're doing, by putting off the things that don't belong in your life and in going into the unknown. That can be a serious thing, but the perspective of it changes your attitude towards it. It's like, this is a chance for me to become someone new, something new. And then so you've got a blank canvas, you've got some new paint. It's like, how do you want to make your first strokes on the canvas? What do you want this to look like? Who do you want to have in your life? What do you want to have in your life? What do you want to become? Where am I going to find my purpose? Like, what motivates me? What's going to inspire me to become the best version of myself? What do I love to do? Can I capitalize on that? Can I improve on that? And so there's so many different things that you can think of when you have a blank canvas in front of you, because you're not being held back from the things that have been in your life, that have been pulling you down and holding you still, and not allowing you to grow into what you truly should become, and what God would have in store for you, which is to say that God can do more with your life than you can do with your life. And so this is really an opportunity for you to start over again, and that should be the perspective. But if you and what people do when they step away from their old life and they want to go on this new journey, they maybe will be able to handle the loneliness part of it for a period of time. But if they don't have anything to replace it with, then the FOMO sets in, then the anxiety sets in. Then it's like, you slowly redirect yourself back into the fold, so to speak. You slowly make your way back to what you were doing, and then it's like, I gave it a shot, but I missed my life, I missed my friends, I missed doing this, and I missed doing that. There was a point where I did tell people that they needed to hold out, or hold out until. I would tell people to hold out, or to take courage and to hold out until you have the right people around you. Hold out until you have the right places to be, and hold out until everything around you meets your standards, and then there's no room in your life for anything that's going to hinder your recovery. What I've realized since then is that addicts or people that struggle with substance abuse or any kind of bad habits, they are they haven't developed enough strength yet to be able to hold out, I guess is what I should say. They haven't developed enough strength to hold out. And it's easier for people to go back to default and to go back to what they know, even if in their brain they know that where they're going is worse for them. It's still what they know. And it's better to be with what you know and to be with and connected with others than it is to be by yourself and then try to hold out, because holding out is just it's just too much, because it means that I have to be by myself a lot. This is how I came up with the solution in my program, which is the sober soul system. Because I know now that people can't hold out, or because who knows how long it's going to take for somebody to find the right people and to find the right places to be and to make sure all this, everything around you, the circumstances are perfect in order for you to be able to engage. I just think that now that's unrealistic to of an expectation to have of people to be able to do. But what people need instead, and I teach this in the sober soul system, is to be able to have those in place first before you remove yourself from the your old life, so that once you have made that commitment to remove yourself from your old life, all of these other networks and support systems are already in place. And so that there isn't a lapse in terms of time where you have to do all of this. And so that is a lot easier for people to be able to handle, going from one life to another life, to take away the space in between where you're in limbo trying to work things out. So my system teaches people how to fill that gap and prepare yourself for it, so that you have that gap filled when it's time to make that decision. And so that's what I would encourage everybody to do. It's a better way. I mean, you can hold out if you want to. You can hold out from the you can hold out, but the problem with that is that there's time that you have to fill trying to do all of these other things. And I guess with my program, I've taken that responsibility from the person to find all of that stuff out, so that that stuff is already in place, and it makes it easier for them to transition. But that doesn't mean as well that you're not going to be alone, because you're still going to be alone, and that's just a fact of your recovery journey. And so this isn't really about trying to fill every space of loneliness that you have, so that you've always got somebody there to support you, so that you don't feel alone or lonely. And in fact, that is really unrealistic to have that expectation as well. Because, well, what's really going to work for you more than that is going to be understanding that that being alone is part of the deal, and to embrace that rather than to shy away from it, and to change your perspective so that your attitude changes towards it as well. Like, is this going to be a new experience for you, where you can reinvent yourself and have a fresh, clean slate and a clean canvas for you to paint a new picture of yourself? Or is this going to be the space where you start to yearn and to pine and have these painful pangs of loneliness and wanting to go back to your old life because you're ill prepared and you're not sure what to do? And I know that there is a good percentage of people that want to go on this recovery journey, but they have tried, and they've tried numerous times, but what they haven't done is they haven't prepared themselves for the journey correctly. They just like they've made up their mind. Okay, I want to stop drinking. I want to do this. I want to do this, but they don't really put the steps in place prior to that to prepare for that breakaway. And that's so crucial and important. But also, you can see how the perspective is just as important. And if you have the right perspective, then that's going to come with the right attitude that's going to help you to do this. If you don't have the right perspective, then you're not going to have the right attitude, and you're going to go back to default. There's I used to be in sales, and one thing that I was taught in sales, especially when you're doing things incorrectly and you're trying to learn a new skill that is better than what you're currently doing, but it means you have to unwire what's in your brain and then try this new thing. You have to replace what you've unwired with something that you need to wire that's better than what you have been doing. And what happens is you start to use the new thing, but when it doesn't get the results that you want straight away, then we tend to go back to what we knew. And what we haven't done is we haven't given the new thing enough time to develop, or we haven't even given it as much time as what we have been using that even hasn't been working. And so how could you ever know if something new is going to work for you or not unless you put it into practice and put in the repetition and the reps and the sets necessary in order for you to be able to get a good handle of it, to then be able to see the results of it. And I've watched people go back to default after learning a new thing, and then because they don't see the results straight away, and sales being a cutthroat industry where some people make commission only money. They want to make money straight away, and if the new thing isn't hitting straight away, they really want to go back to the old thing. Even if the old thing doesn't work as well, at least they know that it has worked in the past, and that's why they go back to it, because it does work, even though it may not work potentially as good as the new thing. But what the problem is they just haven't really given it enough time. And that is what I would say is the same thing for recovery. If recovery means that you have to go on another journey, and that journey means that you're going to be going away from what you know. And the new thing, you have to give it enough time to develop, to be able to see the results and the fruits of it. But if you don't stay in it long enough, then you will go back to default, which is to say that you're just going to go back to your old life. And if you've tried multiple times, this could be one of the reasons why you're caught in a cycle, a vicious cycle, going around in circles. And it actually makes things worse, because you you just get so down on yourself because it's such a vicious cycle. You start to believe that I can't do this. I'll never be able to do this. And then you resort to that mediocre life and just come to grips with the fact that this is just how it's going to be and I can't change. And I've tried. It's not that I haven't tried. I've tried, but I just couldn't do it. And the truth of the matter is that it's not that you just can't do it. It's just that you don't have the right skills and the right knowledge and the right support to be able to do it. Like everybody can do it. 100% everyone can do it. What's lacking is the knowledge, the skill set, the support to be able to do that. And some would try to find the support in the places where they shouldn't be going to get it from in the first place. Maybe the people that their peers that they're hanging out with. You can't get support from somebody that's in the same place or in the same boat as you. Like, you can't be saved from a canoe that's got a leak in it, by somebody else that's on that same boat that you're on. You need somebody else that's on a higher plane, that has the knowledge, that has the skills, that has the tools, that has the resources to be able to help you to get out of it. And I do want to finish on just one of my on the last paragraph of the I'm a Loner blog. And I write in here, let's face it, being alone sucks. But you know what sucks worse? Being around fake people who pretend to love you, but only drag you down, and being in places that might be trendy, but encourage bad behaviors and bring out the worst in you. So here's a hot tip. The best way to overcome loneliness is to be alone. If you plan time to be alone regularly, then it's deliberate, and that's different from being lonely. But the most important thing about being alone is that you will learn to confront your true reality and be alone with your thoughts. And eventually, you learn to temper and control them. Remember, he who can be alone with his own thoughts and is still contented is happy indeed. And I think that that's so true. People also don't want to be alone because they don't like being alone with their own thoughts. They don't want to confront their true reality, because if they're alone with their own thoughts, they could easily go down into a, a downward spiral, because they have too much time to be able to think about what their true circumstances are. And this is also what keeps people in a sedated state, where they don't have to confront their reality because they don't want to see what's going on. They don't want to confront it. But being alone and being lonely are two different things, and I have spoken about this at length before. But being alone is that feeling of being lonely is a feeling of anxiousness and desperation for companionship or connection. But being alone can be different. You can choose to be alone. You can be deliberate about it. You can plan to be alone. And when you plan to be alone, it's very different, because it's something that you're doing deliberately. And there is a quiet confidence that comes from making plans to be alone. And the more that you can deliberately make time to be alone with yourself, and the more comfortable you get with yourself, the happier you can be, because you do need time by yourself to quiet yourself away from everybody. You need time to ponder. You need time to sit with your thoughts so that you can address them, and just accept the fact that you have these thoughts, and to observe yourself without judgment, and to learn to not judge yourself, and just look at and just try to understand that, hey, being alone, sometimes my brain goes into so many different places, and that's pretty interesting to me. I do think about a lot of things. But being lonely and being alone are two, I feel, are two different things. I think that being lonely feels more like it's something that's being pushed on you, and being alone can be something that you choose to do, that's deliberate. There's strength that comes from that. There's a quiet confidence that comes with that. But more importantly, you get to know yourself better, because you can be by yourself and still be contented. You can be by yourself and listen to yourself, and understand that sometimes understand the things that are going on in your head, and just be interested and curious about those things, rather than sit there and just allow yourself to beat up on yourself. So being alone, I would say, lean into it. The more you can be alone with yourself and be content, your life is going to get so much better. You will actually enjoy being by yourself. You'll enjoy your time together. You can recharge yourself. You can create, you can be creative. You can be in, you can grow, you can become. So my advice is to be a loner. Be a loner. Choose to be a loner. Choose to have time to yourself and to reflect. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.
1, 2,